first, but I kind of want to get to you and just kind of figure out who you are and kind of what experiences you've had in the past that have gotten you up to this point. So to start off, how do you think goalkeepers and other coaches you've worked with would describe you?
Describe me. I think the ones I trained throughout the career so far would describe me as a mentor, that I've been for them throughout their learning pathway. Because as you might know, I have no background as a professional player. I had to stop my own playing career with the age of 26 years of age due to problems with my back. And as I never played higher than third division in Germany, I had to look for a normal job, so to say. And at that point, after finishing school, I studied business administration and finished this study. And then I worked in that profession for about, I think, 11 years before becoming fully employed goalkeeping coach. And because of that, I think they would also call me quite normal, not out of this football world or only out of this football industry where we are working in, but also with a knowledge about normal life and what has to be done in order to be able to start a normal life without this football world.
For sure. I mean, it's a great kind of launching point from there. But, when you first got into coaching and your career ends at 26, you get into coaching now. Do you remember any of like the early mistakes that you made as a coach and kind of stuff that you look back now and go, wow, I'm so far removed from those early mistakes?
If you would go over to YouTube and print in my name, you see some videos and and you see what I looked like when I was younger. And usually doesn't matter how old are you, there's always space for development and for learning. And when I actually would go on and watch these videos, I never would train in that way again. So some similar things perhaps, but I have tried to identify that some of the exercises were just stupid work. Did that because something had to be done, but without any game relation or without any decision-making process and so on. And that is quite a development that I would describe. And moreover than so I started professional football, so second division of Germany with the age of 30, I think, so 20 years ago. And one of the goalkeepers in the squad there was one I trained from that time 4 years before in part-time goalkeeping coach. So you always have to divide up the personal relationship and the work, and that was quite heavy thing to get that separated. The one goalkeeper I knew about 3 years, and the other one came in new from another club, and he was brought in as number one. So that was quite difficult because this personal relationship was there, and I wasn't that able or that strong enough to separate it directly.
Yeah, so I kind of want to get into your first coaching job at 30, and it's with Armina Bielefeld, if I'm saying that right. But you were there for 12 years, and before that, those 12 years, a lot of ups and downs. And kind of what was that interview process like when you're 30 years old, stepping in with a professional team? How did you kind of conduct yourself? Did you feel like you were ready to take on that role?
I felt ready, yeah, for sure. And I came in there in the way as it is usual in football. So the head coach was sacked, and also the goalkeeping coach had to leave. And then they remembered me because I was already in the club as a part-time coach. So the new coach called me, we had a meeting, and he asked me whether I would be interested to take over the professionals. And for sure I was interested. But as he didn't know me well enough, they offered me just part-time. That means I went out of my normal job twice a week. It was every Tuesday morning, and also on Saturdays, and the match day was Sunday. And then they gave me the goalkeepers for the whole session. That means 90 minutes on a Tuesday and 70 or 75 minutes on a Saturday. But I felt ready because when I had to stop my playing career with the age of 26, I went to Holland, to the Netherlands, because there you all know his name, Frans Hoek, offered a goalkeeping coach education. And that was that time when Van der Sar was still playing at Ajax. And I recognized that and went to Amsterdam quite often. And that was quite a good thing because I never thought at that age becoming a professional goalkeeping coach. I just wanted to stay connected to the football. We all love football, and when you played it, you want to stay in contact with that. And my thought was just get some knowledge about goalkeeping coaching and go ahead with some boys living around here and train them. And because of that education, which I ran through, that was a basic course and then also an upgraded course, I felt ready to take over. But when I entered that full time, then all the people asked me whether I'm that stupid to leave my role in a business company, which was in comparison to football, where I signed first a 2 years contract. That was one thing. And the other thing was, because I was the youngest coach in professional football in Germany at that time, I think, they all told me that I first have to go to watch Sep Maier or to watch Dieter Budensky or the older experienced goalkeeping coaches in Germany. But my thought was that I will go ahead with the stuff I got from Holland. With the stuff I experienced, with my, so to say, philosophy or my way of thinking of how can I bring it on the pitch. And normally that should be enough to work, or if it wouldn't work, I have to rethink about it. But I wouldn't go ahead and copy one of the experienced coaches, because it was my task to find my own way, and also to build up a quick relation with the goalkeeper who was playing at that time, in order to get a good relationship, but also in order to improve him through the methodologies I would go ahead with.
I kind of want to give a little bit of a timeline and a context of your time in Bielefeld for those 12 years. In your first 4 years at the club, so from 1999 to 2004, you guys are relegated to Bundesliga 2, then promoted to Bundesliga, and then relegated back to Bundesliga 2 again. And then you guys would end up getting promotion back to the Bundesliga from 05 to 09. You guys don't do particularly well, but you guys managed to stay up. And unfortunately, in 2009, you guys go back to Bundesliga 2, and then in 2011 to Bundesliga 3, where I know you would eventually part ways with the club. Was it difficult to focus on your day-to-day operation with, job security kind of constantly up in the air?
As far as job security was concerned, I was never worrying about that, because I always felt safe. So, the coaching staff was the head coach at that time, the assistant coach, and me. That was all. And so Bielefeld is a small club in Germany. And as far as financial things are concerned, that was always very low or critical, because of the many ups and downs in between. That is one point. Then there was no season like when you went into April, where we are now, that you could have said, okay, you will stay in this league or you will get promoted, and so on and so on. So it was always a fight up to the final match day. It means, as usual, 34 matches in both leagues in Germany. So always up to the last day. And when we get relegated, one other problem is that they weren't able to pay the whole salary. So that we always had negotiations in the years after relegation, what might happen about salaries and so on, or they weren't able to pay on a frequent basis, and so on and so on. I'm very thankful to this club and also to the first head coach and the management who brought me in, because when they wouldn't have done that, I would never had the possibility to become a goalkeeping coach for that long time in the two highest league, or in one of the best leagues of European football. And that was great, because nobody told me in the club what I had to do. I was also responsible for the whole academy stuff, and I also, on 2 evenings per week, the coaching of at least under 19, under 17, and we only were 2 coaches, so me as a full-time and then a part-time goalkeeping coach who came in twice a week, and that was all. So that means there was no structure, there was nothing there, and besides the training staff, I also had to build up a certain philosophy that fits to this small club. I had to oversee the scouting or the recruiting of academy players, and so on and so on. So very big task, but that was great in that early years to gain that much experiences without the others telling me go this way, go that way. And whenever you recognize, okay, you are on the wrong way, it was your own decision to leave this way, or to search for another way. And that was great because that made it possible, at least later on. And when I left Bielefeld in 2011, that was not done because I wanted a new club. It was a total financial breakdown at that time. And because of that, I switched over to Schalke in 2011 then.
Got it. And so did those experiences with Bielefeld teach you that, at the first team level, development sometimes may need to take a backseat so that you can kind of just, focus on the points at the weekend?
That was not the case. So we played, when you watch through the names we had as number one goalkeepers. When I came in, the first one, he played from 99. So I, with the professionals, I started in 2000 in November. And this goalkeeper who played at that time played 8 years. He was number one. I think when he joined us, he was 27 years of age, and he played up till 35. So I started training with him. We were fighting against relegation from second to third division in 2000 or 2001. And everything, I think nearly everything for him in the exercise was new. He was not playing quite well, and he didn't understand what I wanted from him. And then after 2 or 3 weeks, I invited him for a dinner. And we sat together under 4 eyes, and I told him, okay, we have 2 possibilities. We go ahead as you want it, then you will stay on the same level as an average goalkeeper of second division in Germany, or you try to trust me, you try to go ahead with new things, with new stuff, and whenever the point comes, when, like such an experience that you will make a big save into a match comes out of an exercise that we did the weeks before, perhaps it will work. And then all of a sudden that happened. And from that stage on, he did everything I wanted from him. And because that we had this long time, this number one, he was also 5 years the captain of the team. The others could develop, and we always had, also because of money, we always had very young number twos, which I could develop then. And then we made plans for them, whether we can bring them on loan to another club or what may happen. So that was quite easy. And also when we had to change in 2008 up to 2011 when I left, we nearly always played with the same goalkeeper. The current number one of Bielefeld, I brought him in when he was at the age of 14. So he came in 2007, and when he became 16, so 2009, it was my decision and not the decision of the management or the head coach that he trains twice a week or 3 times a week with the professionals, because it was visible that he will make his way through. The only question was the height he will get. And because of that was quite easy. So nobody told me what I had to do. I was, you could say it was as everyone wishes, as it should be during the years. The only thing was you were always fighting against relegation or for promoting. That was the point. It's just a small club. So, but I'm that thankful, and whenever somebody asks me what team do you prefer, it's always Bielefeld when somebody asks me.
Got you. You said you had this conversation with this goalkeeper. What were you focusing on with him that you realized was going to work for him?
In the first years, I really focused on what I had in my mind. So it was not that game related, or that I went through the games we played and analyzed situations. Yes, I did that, and I figured out what was good or what was not so good, and we had discussions about that. But the program I had in my head was always focused, okay, you have to train everything that may happen during a match day, and everything can happen at any time. Everything has to be trained throughout a week. And then we were in the office and we had the discussions, okay, what will the team do later on? And what they have done later on gave me the input, what I did in the goalkeeping session of then 30 minutes, 45 minutes or whatever. Because as you know, it should be combined. So when later on, when the head coach goes ahead with 4 against 4 tournament, for example, it doesn't make many sense to go ahead with process, because that will not happen that much or will never happen in that. So that was a combination, but I went through a plan that I had in my mind, but not that related to game situations. And actually, with the boys in the academy, I'm going that way, that I explain, you will do some close range shots. I always explain before, when the ball is there in the situation that will be given as a shot to them, what happened before in a match situation. So where did the ball come from? And they have to position where the ball has been in a realistic game situation. Then they have to move into the new position in order to be ready and set for the shot that will come. So it's always now explained why, and they have to go over and explain later on to me what may happen. So whether it's a short distance shot that comes after cutback, whether it's a short distance shot that comes after an early cross from the winger, so whatever. So it's now that has developed totally throughout the years.
Got it. Okay, so now you move on to Schalke. You're there for 15 months. Doesn't last very long, but you guys do finish third place and in the Champions League spot. So now at least the culture is a little bit different, and I feel like it's a little bit more vibrant and kind of one of joy where you guys are playing for something. What was that first week like as you stepped into the head of goalkeeping development as well as with the first team?
In that summer when I joined Schalke, Manuel Neuer left for Bayern Munich. That's what was quite difficult because it was the first change I made, so everything was new. It's one of the biggest clubs as far as the fan basis or supporter basis is concerned. They have more than 100,000 supporters which have signed for the club, so as a membership. At every training session, it's filled up. You are not able to close the training ground because it's open from 4 sides to enter it. But the main task was I didn't become the first team goalkeeping coach. They had one there. It was to reorganize the goalkeeping department. And coming there, you expect to such a big club, you expect organization, but to be honest, there wasn't one. So, and then I started to work, which was quite a big task because I didn't know anybody in the academy. I had to get used to the team coaches. I had to get used to the athletic coaches, to the assistant coaches, to the management of the academy, and so on and so on. So, and then I started to work. But the main problem at Schalke was that the head coach, so Rangnick, he was there from April. I entered in July, and he left in September because of his burnout. And that was the main problem because he brought me in, and the structure of the club and the management was quite unorganized. And from the point he left, I hadn't that much support internally, and they brought in a new head coach, the older one, an older one, so Ep.15 from Holland. He's a hero at Schalke because in 1997 he won the UEFA Cup with Schalke. So, and then from that time on, I tried to find another opportunity. So, and that's why it only lasts 14 months, because in the summer of 2012, again, Rangnick became sporting director at Leipzig, so Red Bull Leipzig, and also at Red Bull Salzburg. At that time, Leipzig played 4th division, and the task was the same: organize and build a goalkeeping department. Money-wise, it was better than I ever had before with Red Bull in the background. And because of that, I left very quickly.
At Schalke too, like with a rich history in goalkeepers, Jens Lehmann, Manuel Neuer, were there already methodologies in place that you maybe had some similarities to?
No.
So you started from scratch, everything brand new?
Yeah. So they had a very experienced old goalkeeping coach in the academy, more than 60 years of age at that time. So he is like the father or the one who made Manuel Neuer. But Neuer has such huge talent that this was clear that will happen. But when Neuer was under 16 player at Schalke, they judged him not to be good enough to stay there. So normally he would have been sent away. They just took him over because he lived there in the city. And when he was age-wise under 16 player, he started as number 3. At that time he wasn't very tall. And then he grew up. And the main point he has had was his quality with the feet and the long throw. But as far as goalkeeping was concerned at that age, he wasn't one of the best in Germany. And that you can also see that the first international cap he has had with under 19, I think, and not earlier. But you couldn't recognize if there was a clear plan internally. So, there were many goalkeepers made there. And so the old goalkeeping coach, with whom I'm still in contact, he's retired now, has had a clear plan. And it worked. Obviously, it worked, yeah. This short time, it's difficult to tell something in depth about that, or what would have been possible if I would have had the support. Because normally, what I do know in Dortmund, the same was planned at Schalke.
Got it. So, you move on to, Leipzig now where you're the head of goalkeeping development. And again, now you're moving from, the two first team opportunities now to you're essentially the head of the goalkeeping development and academy. So it's a little bit more of a project now. You can kind of really sink your teeth into it. So new country now, new club, new environment for you. What was your first order of business now at Leipzig where, like you said, at Schalke, you're trying to implement these new philosophies and kind of development plans, but you didn't really have the flexibility or the ability to do that. So were you kind of just waiting for that next opportunity to step into this new role and kind of make that your own?
Yeah, that was also family-wise was a huge project because Leipzig from my hometown is about a 4-hour drive. That means I have to separate myself from the family or get them over with me. But we decided to leave them here, and I had to deal with them. The ratio, so work-life balance. I worked there 5 days, and then I had 2 days off, and that every week. And I couldn't decide by myself which days I took off. What you could see from the first moment is that the people over there were very thankful for bringing people in. Doesn't matter which area, so athletic department, video analysis, goalkeeping department. They were very thankful for people coming in with a huge amount of knowledge because they, this club was founded in 2009, so it's only 11 years of age now. And the first year they were promoted from 5th to 4th division. But then they didn't make it up to the 3rd division. And in the first year I was there, we were promoted to 3rd division, then up to the 2nd division. And there wasn't any building. We worked in containers. The locker rooms were in containers. Everything was in containers. The pitches were totally new. Everything was built up. You were always able to see the stadium, which was built or rebuilt for the World Cup in 2006. So it was a World Cup stadium with highest technology, with I think 45,000 spectators possible. You played in there, and the number of people watching the matches in the 4th division were 5,000. And you had enemies all over Germany, not only in town, because you were supported by Red Bull. So it was quite an interesting time. And as far as the goalkeeping department is concerned, they had one full-time goalkeeping coach, but quality-wise, he was bad. So that was my first decision to get rid of him. I worked very close together with Hans Leitert, who was the head of goalkeeping for all Red Bull clubs. He was stationed at Salzburg, so before I joined Red Bull, we had a very close relationship, and we worked very close together. And we decided to build up an assessment center for recruiting goalkeeping coaches first, in order then to convince boys to come over to get the best training possible. That was all the same in all the Red Bull clubs. We investigated in thinking about own system of training documentation and training analysis, and also about a system of game analysis, which was equal in all Red Bull clubs. So in New York, in Brazil, at that time also in Africa, in Ghana, we had very big meetings. So two big goalkeeping coaches meetings with all goalkeeping coaches from all clubs. That was one always in August for a whole week, so 5 days, and one in February for 3 days. So that was a great time. And yeah, we always could use these clubs. So you have had Leipzig was clear will become the best club if everything will work. So as it actually is in Champions League. And then we said, okay, at that time, the highest team we had was Salzburg with the first Austrian league, which is comparable to the 2nd division in Germany. And we played in 4th division and 3rd division with a very experienced goalkeeper from Switzerland. At that time, already 35 years of age. Also had experience in La Liga in Spain. And it was clear when we would enter 2nd and 1st division in Germany, we need a new goalkeeper. And at that time, we scouted or recruited a goalkeeper for Salzburg in order to let him play at Salzburg, perhaps Champions League or Euroleague, to give him experiences, to train how we want him to train, and then to get him over to Salzburg. So it's also played with outfield players. And the recruitment process of that goalkeeper, who is actually number one, so is Peter Gulasci, is number one of Hungary, and he is number one at Leipzig. That was the best example of how to recruit a goalkeeper. So the task, that process lasted 1 year at least, so one full season. And the task was to bring in the best European under-21 goalkeeper. doesn't matter which nationality. So we had an unbelievable big paper with 3 goalkeepers of every nation in Europe. And then we first get rid of the ones who are not interested, and we left it with 10 names. So, and then all goalkeeping coaches from all clubs started to watch games. And what we figured out is that you need to make a good judgment on a goalkeeper, you need at least 10 full matches of him being analyzed in the same way, because all the goalkeepers very often play an average game. Sometimes they play bad, sometimes they play top level, and to judge about one, you need 10 games. So of the 10 names we had, we watched 10 games. So we had 100 games. After that, we analyzed what the outcome was, and we again cut it off 5 names. So we then were there with 5 again. Of these 5 goalkeepers, we again watched and analyzed 10 games. So of these 5, we then had 20 matches of each. Then we got rid of 2 names, and we were there with 3 names, and we watched from each goalkeeper 5 matches live, so in the stadium. But again, all of the coaches. So also the academy coaches, everyone was in that project. And then we made a ranking just based on what we have analyzed, not about what they would earn, what the transfer fee would be, nothing of that, all away. And the names, it's easy, was Roman Bürki, who was actually number 1 at Dortmund. At that time, he plays at Grasshoppers Zurich in Switzerland. We had Jeroen Zoet. He played for PSV Eindhoven in Holland. At that time, he was on loan at a smaller club. And it was, of course, Peter Gulasci. And the big advantage was Gulasci was number 3 at Liverpool at that time. And we had the possibility to get him over for 3 days for all testing stuff and also for training to Salzburg. So, and then after that, we had this ranking. We went ahead with what is the transfer fee, what's money-wise, what salary they want. And then we took the decision. And everybody was convinced that will work. And then he played 3 years or 2 years at Salzburg. And then he came over, he played second division Germany, and now he's one of the best in Europe. And that was one of the biggest thing or most impressive thing that I experienced in Leipzig. And the other thing was, as far as recruiting coaches, we set up a recruitment process like an assessment center. Because normally, so if the both of us, we would know each other, and you live here, and I think you're a nice guy, and you need a job, I can bring you in if you want to. So, and we said, okay, leave the personal relationship outside, just on the quality of the coach. And we did psychological tests with them, either in Salzburg or in Leipzig. We gave them boys to train with, like a trial for coaches. So we just told them, okay, you have 60 minutes, you have 4 goalkeepers, the age group is under 16 or under 15, whatever. The topic of the session, it's your decision, go ahead. And we did an interview. But whenever that was a coach that I knew from former times, so I worked with or I knew from whatever conferences or so on, this assessment was done at Salzburg, and I was out. And the other way around, when it was an Austrian coach for Salzburg, and the guys at Salzburg knew him personally, they were out, and I did all the testing stuff. And then we had result on the paper, and that's how we recruited coaches. And that's also, many of them are still in the Red Bull group, or they made their way up to other professional clubs. So I think I lost Marco Knob. He was with me in Leipzig. Then he was in Dortmund. He is now, since the 1st of January, the first team goalkeeping coach at Fenerbahce Istanbul. It was very based not on emotions or on personal relationships, but everything was based on facts over there, and that went very well.
With those younger goalkeepers that are coming into the academy, are you also doing kind of like that same process of watching their games? You scout them with their local teams and how they play, or what is like the goal when you're bringing those kids in? Are you trying to develop them for the first team? Are you trying to mold them to your philosophy? Kind of like, what is that process like for the younger goalkeepers?
Yeah, when you talk about a club playing in the Champions League, like Dortmund or Leipzig, it has to be clear that, especially on the position as a goalkeeper, you have to be that honest that you normally develop for the market. so for the football industry. But if you are in younger years a goalkeeper at Leipzig or Dortmund, the chance to go through, or when it's not, the next step would not be in the same club, the chance to go ahead with a good club is much bigger than if you come from a smaller club. But as always, you try to find in each age group the one goalkeeper with the highest potential in that age group. So that's my philosophy. If you have the top class goalkeeper of one age group, let's say 2002, for me, it's sure you will not be able to get the best German goalkeeper or European of the age group 1 year younger, 2003, because it wouldn't make any sense, as they stop each other because they are that close together age-wise. So normally when, let's say, when I have the best 2002 boy, I would focus on 2004 then and 2006 and then 2008 and so on. If I have one out of 2001, I would focus on 3, 5, and 7 and so on. That doesn't mean that we would not take a very good one in between them, but logically, especially on this position, it's not that sensible to have the best one in one club from every age group. That will not happen. So that's what I focus on, either in Leipzig and actually also in Dortmund. But the bigger the club is, the more the goalkeepers are criticized. So compared to Bielefeld, the stuff in Schalke and also in Leipzig and Dortmund is totally different. You have only black and white. So good performance, okay, that's normal. Bad performance, we need a new goalkeeper. That happens every week. I think that makes my position that important, because as I do not have a team on my own, every Monday I can go ahead and jump in between discussions, head coach and goalkeeping coach from each team, because every goalkeeper has his mistakes every weekend, sometimes this age group, sometimes that age group. And that has to be brought on a realistic basis, especially towards the head coaches and the academy management. And this is one of my biggest tasks, to explain them what goalkeeping is like. And that has been done throughout developing principles that are readable for everyone and that are also known to everyone that we have to work with. I just focus on not on every year to get the best in, but to make the best out of that what you have there, because the one we all look for is the one who will make his way throughout the academy to the first team. But as we all know, we talk about that we have to develop the same skills that the outfield players has. The only thing I don't need, the goalkeepers don't need to be that good in as outfield players is dribbling, but they have to be able to pass short and long distances with both feet. They have to be able to take headers out of the 18-yard box and so on and so on. And then we also have to develop the whole skills they have to be able to handle with the hands. And that is very often forgotten. And one big problem we have over here in Germany is that in the smaller clubs, the boys are allowed up to the age group under 11 to take every back pass with the hands. They will not learn to play with a back pass or to deal with a back pass. And when they then come to a bigger club where all the teams play with the back pass rule, and we have them at Dortmund or in former times at Leipzig, it is awful what you see, because they have no skills with the feet. Are you playing with a back pass rule?
Not that I know of, no. I train a lot of older goalkeepers, so I'm for sure not them, but I don't know if the younger goalkeepers are doing it. But yeah, it's probably a rule that should probably be taken out pretty soon. But no, Thomas, one thing that I've actually heard about in one of your webinars is that you have like statistics for every single session that the coaches fill in certain amount of delegation and certain amount of time per topic. Like I said, unannounced balls, announced balls, zonal defense, goal defense. They have to have specific hourly logs per week into those categories. So, you're talking about how on Mondays you go to these different teams, and let's say the goalkeeper over the weekend had a mistake. You said, I think in your webinar, that you go back and look at where that mistake stemmed from and see if the coach spent enough time in that category over the week. Can you kind of shed some light on that aspect, and how important has that been in terms of your, I guess, kind of being able to track where the mistakes are coming from?
Yeah. So what the reason behind that is, if you don't face the boys with certain things that may happen in matches, you couldn't expect that they delivered on match day. And then I have to watch, okay, how many hours or how many minutes did the coach spend? And if he wouldn't spend throughout the last 3 weeks any minute on crosses, for instance, the one who's to blame for that is the coach and not the boy. That's first. So, and let's say they have a template of training contents, and then they have like a calendar, and they have to fill in certain colors. So goal defense is always red, zonal defense is yellow, offensive game is green, and they have to go ahead to tell me, okay, we started with 15 minutes of announced balls, that is red 1. Then they go ahead with whatever unannounced balls is red 2. Then the boys go to the team for shooting exercise is red 4. It's always about 15 minutes what they did, the first 15, second 15, and so on. If you go ahead with one topic for 30 minutes, you take the red color with 2 times 1. And then behind, it's just like an Excel sheet. And behind the fields they fill in, we have some formulas, and the formulas calculate for me and also for the coaches to get an own feedback what they did, how many hours or minutes they spend on certain sessions or throughout a week or monthly, and so on and so on. And so for me, it's clear the topic that can be trained easiest is goal defense for me. It's just laying a ball down and give some shots. But on the other side, the most difficult task while playing as a goalkeeper football is zonal defense, in my opinion. And whenever we watch goalkeeper coaches throughout the world training crosses, for instance, they do not distinguish between cutbacks, low crosses, narrow crosses, high crosses from different angles, and so on. They just give the goalkeeper number 2 the ball's outside, and they bring in crosses that will never happen, without any dummies, without realistic scenarios, and so on and so on. But I also think for us as coaches to find scenarios, or to build scenarios which are very realistic or very close to what may happen in matches, it's also for us as coaches very difficult. And that's normal when you start a new club. The amount or the percentage that you can observe that will be trained in zonal defense is always the lowest. That's my experience, and that's why we do this stuff. It's like a review after training to fill that in, and they send it to me quarterly. So every 3 months I give that, and I can review what happens. It's a certain tool to overview what happens, because many teams train at the same time. I cannot observe the coaches or what happens. I can move on. Or what I do now, I concentrate weekly on one coach. That means every week I shadow one of the coaches, make my notes, and after this week or during sessions or after the session, they have a feedback conversation with me then on what happens. On most of the times I put forth questions in order to make them thinking and to find solutions what they could change in certain things.
Got it. Well, in your time there at Leipzig, you're spending some time with the U18 and U19 national teams. Did you notice anything from, working with some of the country's best goalkeepers at that age group with regards to their style of play that you felt you could bring back to Leipzig? And did you bring anything back to your department?
So the first year I went with Germany under 19. We became European champion. The whole team is playing first division, but not the goalkeeper we had in. And the years thereafter, I went with under 18. And I asked myself, how will I proceed there? Because, when you meet with a squad, you normally have 3 or 4 days of preparation before a match. What are the contents of training? I decided for myself that I will not correct their technique, because the technique has to be implemented and be corrected by the goalkeeping coach at the club, because they have them frequently on a daily basis. I just discussed something with them that became obvious, and I decided for me that I want to bring them exercise because they normally should be the best of Germany, that they got a challenge, that they will be supposed to exercise they didn't knew before, very complex exercises that force them to make decisions. What became obvious is that when talking after the courses with the coaches of the clubs, is that they are not used to this game-related complex training. They always, or that's very common still in Germany, that one goalkeeper is working in goal and others are waiting in a row, and when the one is done with the work, the next one steps into the goal, and so on, which is something that has been done in former times, but that is something that should be done actually, I think.
So how did those goalkeepers react when you introduced that to them? Did you feel like they were able to adapt?
Yeah, I always want them to be online. So it's also when they are first facing exercises with 2 or 3 goals in one exercise, is something was or often that was totally new. But that depends on from which clubs they come. So if you have one goalkeeper then in the squad out of the clubs where the academy works quite well, that's very close to my thinking. If you have one very talented out of a smaller club, it was totally different. Having that explained why and what for we are doing that, I think they quite liked it. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, well, so now you move on from Leipzig, you go to Dortmund now. So 2 back-to-back roles as like the head of goalkeeping development. So, what's attracting you to these roles? Like, are you missing the first team environment at all at this point?
No, I'm not missing that because I'm old. The contract at Leipzig expired by June 2015, and we had to take a decision as a family to get the whole family over there, or if there's an opportunity here, and now Dortmund is a drive of 35 minutes, which I could take. So Dortmund called me first in April 15, and they wanted me as first team goalkeeper coach at that time. And we had a meeting, and I told them, yes, I can do that. But I think the better task for me is to oversee the department, and to work with the coaches they have, or with the coaches that we have to get new in, to make them better, which will then lead to become better goalkeepers in the academy. So at that time, Jürgen Klopp, who's now at Liverpool, was the coach, and he decided to want a new goalkeeping coach. But then, because that was the worst year they had with Klopp, they decided to make a change on the head coach position. New coach came in. He was related in some way to the goalkeeping coach working there. And then they asked me, okay, we will go ahead with the coach we have, but we want you to as head of goalkeeping development. Viewing from outside on Dortmund, you think it's one of the biggest clubs in Germany. They always play Champions League and so on. But I knew from outside, while we were battling as far as getting talents was concerned, I knew that the structure goalkeeping-wise wasn't good. And having had these good experiences from Leipzig, I tried to implement the same way of work over there. And if you implement a new way of working, it's a process. And the results can be seen, luckily, after 2 years, more sure after 3 or 4 years. And that's where we stand now. As I already mentioned, we try to bring in the best talent possible out of that region. We got that in. He's now number 3 of the professional squad, but he's already age-wise able to play under 19 football, and that's what we also do with the younger age groups. I change nearly every goalkeeper coach, so we work with a full-time coach for the under 23s, for under 19, 17, 16, and 15, 14. We have just one part-time coach for the youngest age groups, so under 13 down to under 9. They all have tasks because people not in the football industry, or not knowing what being a goalkeeping coach is about, they think it's okay, just going out with a net of balls, some shooting exercise, and that's it. They were surprised how many analysis work they have to do. Also, actually, they get in this Corona time, the goalkeeping coaches get weekly tasks from me, so sent over from me every Monday. They have time to work that out till Fridays, something about questioning. Sometimes I give them a certain situation that they should imagine they are coaches of a professional team, and something happens in the staff, or something happens as far as results is concerned. And then I ask them how would they handle that, or how would they judge that, and so on and so on. So
Yeah, so I kind of want to talk about, some of the components that you look for in like the profile of the goalkeepers that you're trying to move up to the first team. I know you have four. What are those four components that these goalkeepers, when you're profiling, they must have?
What we said is we split it up into technique, tactique, athletic, and psychology, and that is all then broken down to goal defense, total defense, and offensive game. And if you want to play professional football, doesn't matter if it's Champions League football or just professional football, second division, we know that you have to be, if possible, excellent, but that is impossible. You have to be good in all these areas. We want goalkeepers that at first, the most important part is goal defense. And we want people in there which identify 100% with the role, which do everything to avoid goals against. So that means we want boys in which are very effective. But we do not think that they all need the same technique, because one of the boys is 1.95 meters, the next one is 1.8. It will not always look like, but they have to look like the same. But they have to be very effective as playing for Dortmund Academy teams. They always, on average numbers, they will just face 2 situations on goal defense per match. One of that is difficult and one of that is easier. So we prepare for the difficult one, for this just one situation. Then we want goalkeepers which are very brave as far as zonal defense is concerned. We want them that they're not thinking about how can I avoid a mistake. We just want them that they go for balls and test out which balls are attackable for them and which ones are not. So we want clear deciders. We want goalkeepers and not always stay goalkeepers, but they should know, okay, which trajectory of the ball gives me what decision, or where does the ball come from? Is that attackable or not? Especially as far they mostly face crosses from corners against them and through balls behind or over a high defensive line. That means when they are working in goal defense, they very often on match days face areas of about 40 times 40 meters that they have to act in, and the quality of the decision they have to take is very high. And we want good distributors. That means they are always involved in building up from the back. All the teams should try to play out with short passes from the back. That means they need to want the ball at their feet. They need to find solutions. They need to play through balls in order to get a certain number of players out of the match or to break lines. And all this together needs to be developed in a long-lasting process, and that takes years. And what we have observed now, especially also in this Corona time now, because all the goalkeepers get 2 matches of themselves every week to analyze with a certain software, and they have to resend the cutted playlists to me, and they have to count the number of actions they have. And the result for sure is, playing at Borussia Dortmund, the match days are the most unimportant days per week. And everything you need to develop has to be developed throughout the training sessions. And what we now plan for the next season is that the most talented boys will always train with older outfield players in order to make the training days more difficult for them, and to provoke that they have to adapt as quick as possible towards the older players. The game becomes quicker, the shots become harder and more precise, and so on and so on.
But I think there's one thing that's kind of a little bit non-negotiable for like the German side of things. It's the psychological game. If you look at any German goalkeeper over the years, most of them at least, they have that winner's mentality. So with the academy, are you guys scouting winners, or are you guys trying to build winners?
We try to build, because I don't know whether you can see that just by scouting. I think that becomes obvious by talking to people, and while then seeing them train or playing. So you can, of course, you can see a little bit of that. but we try to form them. So it's always that we remember them why they started playing, because there are crucial times, there are hard times when you are in a bad flow and making mistake next week, next mistake, and so on and so on. You will hear something about discussions going on with your name in the discussions and so on, and we try to build them. We have the help of a sports psychologist working also with the boys, not frequently, but they can use him, and that's why we try to build up this mentality.
Yeah, and so in terms of like the athleticism aspect of things, I know you guys at Dortmund have goalkeeping specific athletic training. So are they getting the most of their work with that trainer, or are you guys also implementing more high flying stuff and doing a lot of plyometrics within the sessions as well?
As far as athletic training is concerned, they get most of the stuff from the athletic coaches, because they are the experts in this field. And jumping over hurdles will not happen in front of a goal, but it's necessary to be done. But that's just an athletic skill and not a technique that needs to be used, because jumping over a hurdle and flying for a high ball is totally different than if the hurdle wouldn't stand in front of the goal. So you will never see a goalkeeping sessions where you will find hurdles standing in front of the goal.
Gotcha. So, talking about the technique, one thing I've noticed with German goalkeepers is the technique of the arm swing. So, you've seen goalkeepers, Ter Stegen, Neuer, who kind of make that arm swing look effortless when really it is a skill that kind of has to be fine-tuned over time. So, with that being said, is it something that they have developed organically based off of their methodologies, or is that arm swing something that you're actively teaching?
No, I don't like this arm swing, because you always will. It's totally difficult to have the arms in the right position in the moment of shot. Then they will always be on the side or behind your upper body. But of course, also in Germany, you need this little jump or pre-activation before the shot. We just want to not to jump in. So at Dortmund or also at the national teams, I try to teach them not to jump in this ball, because then you have the problem of having your feet on the ground, so to have ground contact in the moment of shot. We just want to move them into with very small steps, very small frequent steps, and we also try to teach them to be ready, not in the moment of the shot, but 1 second before of that, so to say, in order to be safe, to have the feet on the ground, to be able to react in all the directions.
Got it. So is there, based off of your methodologies, philosophies and all that, is there a goalkeeper in Germany right now that you feel is more or less like somebody you would look at and say, this is the kind of goalkeeper that I'm trying to develop here at Dortmund?
Yeah, he's not playing in Germany. He's playing at Barcelona,
yeah. Oh, good. Yeah, Ter Stegen is... Yeah, I mean, do you feel like a lot of the...
I think he's actually the best example in all areas. He also has mistakes, but he plays on if nothing has happened. He's outstanding as far as distribution is concerned. I know some guys at Mönchengladbach they played before, and when they were playing for activation or before the training starts officially, they played 5 against 2. And he didn't wear gloves. They thought, coming new to the club, that this is an outfield play. So wow. He's unbelievable with that. He's unbelievable 1 against 1. He has a great push off. He's brave coming for crosses. He has good punching technique. So whenever talking actually about the best German goalkeeper, I would name him. Yeah.
Gotcha. Thomas, I have about just two or three more questions here, and I know we've been going for a little while, but one thing that I spoke to Tim Dittmer about recently was the social aspect of the goalkeeper. So within sessions, what are you trying to do to kind of invoke and get that social aspect out of them to, I guess, think freely, but also to kind of have that ability to problem solve on the fly?
Yeah, we always step into discussion. So what we do is when we are on the pitch is not to interrupt when a mistake occurs. We will not interrupt the whole exercise or session, and we will not stay there as coaches to tell them this went wrong, do it this and that way. We try to force them while asking questions to solve situations and also to make them think about what they are doing there. So the first, when I'm on the pitch with boys or also with professionals, the first questions I ask when I discuss something with them is a question that can be answered with yes or no. So, and they will always choose, the younger they are, the more often they choose yes or no. And my next question then is why? And on a question based on why, you cannot answer with yes or no. And you have to start thinking about goalkeeping, playing as a goalkeeper, training as a goalkeeper, and being involved in this stuff. And what we want from the boys is that they all have the same language on goalkeeping. And this is also why we send them the matches to analyze and so on. And they have common function on there, and they have to write down comments on what they analyze there. And some boys only write good save. And then my question, I can recommend, I write in why. And then they have to explain based on principles. So principle 1, right position at the right time. Principle 2, being in balance. Principle 3, standing in moment of shot, and so on. And then we land at when that is done. So it's all about tactical understanding of playing as a goalkeeper and positional play. Then we talk about the technique the goalkeeper they observed or they themselves have used.
Thomas, also for the goalkeepers in the academy, what's the standard for them? Let's say they're not catching up to speed with the social aspect, where they don't really give you the answers that you want from them, or they're not really thinking deep enough. And that's at the same time too, their technical and tactical understanding is not progressing the way you would hoped when you first got them in the development phase. How long do you kind of normally stay with those goalkeepers if they're not showing any progression?
If they will not show any progression, they normally will not play. So that's one point. And if you have that point without getting a progression on the pitch and off the pitch with all the aspects we just discussed, we will come out in the months of February at the latest that the agents come or the players themselves come and want to ask or talk about the perspective they have in the future. At that time, I'm very honest and clear to them and tell them, okay, that the way will stop, because not playing under 17, for sure, everybody will realize it will not become more easy to play under 19. When two age groups come together. So we have in each age group, we have 2 goalkeepers. Up to under 16, we play percentage-wise 70. So the better one plays 70%, but we also let the others live, so to say, and give them match possibilities. From the age of under 17 on, we have clear number 1 goalkeepers. And then we are always on the market. We always have the scouting processes running. And if somebody will be found, so okay, we have to take a decision to bring another one in and tell the others that are in already for longer years that the way stops at that moment.
Got it. So for those kids who aren't turning it and progressing into the 16, 19s and showing that progress, what are some of those younger goalkeepers not prioritizing? And do you have any tips for any of the goalkeepers that, will eventually listen to this, that they should start prioritizing now, that you kind of look for in those development phases?
Difficult question. You have to become a goalkeeping or football nerd, so to say. It doesn't matter which age group. So you have to be that keen on to improve on, especially on your weaknesses, that you don't use only the 4 times or 5 times training sessions you have at the club. You have to take the ball you have everywhere on the smallest spot, and you always have to work, especially what football skills is concerned. You can do that easily at home with repetition and all the other stuff too. And if you are just playing football because it's good, and because you have some fun with the boys over there, being in the locker room and so on, but you stop working while leaving the academy or the training ground, it will not be enough to make it to the highest level or higher level.
Gotcha. Okay. Last question here, and just wanted to just pick your brain for the coaches that are listening here. What are 2 or 3 tips that you would give them, I guess, as you have gone and progressed through your career from Bielefeld to Schalke, and then to Red Bull Leipzig, and now at Dortmund? What maybe some tips to help guide them, and some of the stuff that you've learned over the years that has been an impact to you?
You have to connect with the players you work with. That means you have to build a certain relationship with them. So it's a question of trust. The players you work with, doesn't matter, because they are all certain personalities or characters. Doesn't matter with which age. They have to trust you. You have to always to be honest with them when you are on and off the pitch and work with them. That's the main point. Then, as far as knowledge is concerned, you always have to be a step ahead as far as knowledge and what's going on in football is concerned. As the players you work with are, doesn't matter whether they are 30 years of age or if the youngest players. But for every question they put forth to you, you have to find a certain and concrete answer that may help them to go ahead and be open-minded, sharing ideas and knowledge, and to learn from everyone who is talking to you about football, or especially on goalkeeping. Because whenever a new book is on the market, I buy the book for me, and if there's just one sentence that I can use for progression, it was worthwhile spending the money for a whole book of 200 pages. So you have to become a big passion for goalkeeping, and that has to become obvious with whenever you wake up every morning. The thinking has to start about goalkeeper and goalkeeping, and whenever you go to bed in the evening, you still should think about that. How can you improve your keepers? How can you improve yourself? Which one can I talk to? Is there anybody that I should be connected with as far as networking is concerned, to gain information, to gain new ideas? And also whenever there is a conference in the neighborhood, or if you are able to travel abroad for conferences, go there. It's always worthwhile with connect with people which are keen on becoming better in goalkeeping.
All right, guys. So that was Thomas Schlieck from Borussia Dortmund, head of goalkeeping development. Thank you so much for coming on. Hopefully you guys got a lot out of that. We'll talk soon. Take care.